Hey YouTube, hi, this is me, and I want to discuss today the issue of why Muslims feel compelled to either attack people or to go so far as to kill people when they believe that these people have insulted Muhammad. Just give me one moment to check that my audio is coming through, and I want to discuss today. Okay, my audio is coming through, right. Okay, so recently a French school teacher was beheaded in France. And as we know, Hatun was attacked at Speaker's Corner. And no matter what we say to Muslims, they will do the tap dance around the Quran and the Hadith. You can quote any verse from the Quran, they will simply deny it. They'll bring up a contradictory verse. They will deny that there's abrogation in the Quran, but obviously we do know. Hey Mojo dude, how you doing? I hope faith. Thank you. But we know that they will come up with something else that totally contradicts what you say, and then you can quote something else that contradicts, and it just goes in circles. The simple solution is the Sharia. It is the final interpretation. It is the final authoritative interpretation of everything that is in the Quran. Ah, I forgot to place my camera, of course. It is the final interpretation of everything that's in the Quran and Hadith, and in the Sunnah, of course. This book in front of me is called The Unsheathed Sword Against the One Who Insults the Messenger. Right, so let me skip forward. Now, this book is written by a Sheikh al-Islam. The Sheikh al-Islam is someone who is regarded as one of the top 28 scholars of Islam in all time. And who we have here is Sheikh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah, regarded as one of the finest and most influential scholars in Islamic history, right? So please do more videos on Hadith. Awesome, thank you. Excellent, thanks. You're a voice of reason and intelligence. Thank you very much, Jay. Right, so I want to show you why. This man is the authoritative scholar on the subject called Sabb al Rasul, or insulting of the Prophet. Now you must understand that Muhammad is linked, as far as the Sharia is concerned, as far as Islamic law is concerned. Muhammad is Allah and Allah is Muhammad. They speak with the same voice. They speak with the same authority. To insult Muhammad is to insult Allah. To insult Allah is to insult Muhammad. The penalty for this is death. This is from page 3. This is the introduction to the book, or rather just the index. Let's have a look and see what Sheikh al-Islam, the authority on this subject. And by the way, Ibn Taymiyyah is also the authority on jihad. He's writing on jihad. He's considered authoritative. He is the top scholar on the subject in Islam. I have a video on this on my channel. In fact, I've covered this before, but now I want to do a live chat and I can take some questions. All right. The first issue, whoever insults the Prophet is to be killed, whether they are Muslim or a disbeliever. The second issue, killing is prescribed on him, the one who insults the Prophet, and it is not permissible to imprison or show favor to him. In other words, to show him clemency, mercy, to forgive him, or to ransom him. The third issue, any Muslim or non-Muslim who insults the Prophet is to be killed, and repentance is not sought from him. This is the opening page. I assume this is very clear. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments. I'll take time out to look at those as we go forward. And yeah, but I suspect that this should be unambiguous at this point. So we'll skip forward. So the contents of this book concerns the Islamic ruling upon those who insult the final prophet and messenger, Muhammad. Now, the purpose of this book is not to elucidate the excellent and the unparalleled status. Now, of course, in the Quran, Muhammad is just a messenger. He's just a regular dude. And in fact, John, Peter, Paul, all the apostles are themselves regarded as messengers. They're on the same status as Muhammad in theory, right? But they're referred to as messengers as well. However, he has unparalleled status, right? So now they speak of unparalleled status of the Prophet, nor to refute the distortions and fabrications of the enemies of Islam concerning him. Okay, that's fantastic. The objective of this work is to clarify the Islamic ruling on this subject, the subject being insulting Muhammad, Sabb al Rasul. What happens when you insult Muhammad? The first issue, the one who insults him, the Prophet, whether Muslim or disbeliever, is to be killed. I guess that's fairly unambiguous. The second issue, they are to be killed even if they pay a protective tax in a Muslim state. So they are to be killed even if they're a dhimmi, in other words, if you've been subjugated under Islam. I have shows on that as well on my channel. And of course, clarification of what constitutes insulting. Right, I'm going to jump forward to page 7. Let's get to the first section. Whoever insults the Prophet is to be killed, whether they are Muslim or a disbeliever. Hopefully this clarifies for you that Sharia law applies to both Muslims and non-Muslims. Now, if you're a Christian, your prayer, you do not politically impose your will on others, right? Remember, we have separation between church and state. In Islam, there is no separation of mosque and state. Religious will is political will. Political will is religious will. So they are to impose the Sharia upon you. And it says, this is the general view of the scholars. The scholars have consensus that whoever insults Muhammad is to be killed. Malik, Layth, Ahmad, Ishaq. And Ishaq means Isaac. It's just the Arabization of the name Isaac. And Shafi also said this. So we've got 3 founders at least, if not 4, of the schools of jurisprudence, of the major schools of Islamic jurisprudence. The Muslims have a unanimous agreement upon killing whoever insults the Prophet. It is the ruling that whoever insults other than him is to be lashed. So you insult Muhammad, you die. If you insult anyone other than Muhammad, who's one of his companions, you are to be lashed. Of course, you could be lashed such that you do die. This consensus is taken to be the consensus from the Tabi'un, those are the faithful followers of Muhammad, and the companions of Allah's messenger. Right? So the Tabi'un are the followers of the companions, if I remember that correctly. And they speak of Shaykhul Islam ibn Taymiyyah. So you can go to Wikipedia, you can check that up, or look up a list of Shaykh al-Islam. You'll find his name there, one of the 28 most influential, greatest scholars of Islam in all time. Notice their consensus upon the obligation of killing such a person if he is a Muslim. So Muslims have to die, but they've just told us that non-Muslims die too. The Muslims have a consensus that whoever insults Allah or insults his messenger or rejects anything from what has been revealed by Allah, such a person is a disbeliever. Now, what happens to disbelievers? Well, let's find out. Apostasy from Islam, Ridda, section 080. This is in the Reliance of the Traveler, as we know, the world's most famous Sharia manual. Whoever voluntarily leaves Islam is killed. That's section 08.1. There is no indemnity or expiation for killing him. Excellent. Let's step forward and see what this ruling actually goes. Let's go to page. Let's actually read the ruling from the Sharia. Apostasy from Islam, Ridda. Leaving Islam is the ugliest form of unbelief. Well, you're a disbeliever, right? You don't believe. Kufr, and it is the worst. When a person who has reached puberty and is sane voluntarily apostatizes from Islam, he deserves to be killed. I trust that is clear. It doesn't seem to say anything else. Well, let's see what you have to say. If you disagree, please reference the Sunni Shia Sharia reference with the link. Yeah, that will be appreciated. Right. Now, there are various opinions here, and they are not conflicting opinions. They simply, Islam Sharia allows a variation of ruling. Right? There's a variability allowed within the rulings. Ask him to repent. If he refuses, he is immediately killed. Now, of course, some of the scholars, some of the major schools will say kill him immediately, don't ask him to repent, and some will say give him up to 3 days. Of course, they all agree that you die. How you die, well, that's what they differ about. Some will say starve them to death, some will say burn them, some will say hang them, some will say chop off their head, some will say stone them to death, some, yeah, well, you have choice. Section 8.4, there is no indemnity for killing an apostate, since it is killing someone who deserves to die. Okay, I trust that's clear. I don't see anything that says, no, forgive them, be nice. The Sharia is very, very clear on this issue. Right, let's move on. Al-Khattabi said, I do not know anyone who differed concerning the obligation of killing such a person. It might be my imagination, but I suspect there's a pattern forming here in terms of their opinion about what to do with someone who insults Muhammad. Right, so Muhammad bin Sakhnun said, the scholars have consensus that whoever insults the messenger, attributing a defect to him, then such a person is a disbeliever. Now, this explains why you can show Muslims all of the totally immoral things, all of the completely immoral things that Muhammad did, and they will deny them, despite the fact that you can bring Sahih after Sahih after Sahih hadith. And because Muslims are forced by the Sharia to never attribute any defects to Muhammad. He can do nothing wrong. He is perfect. When they say he's the perfect man, they mean it, right? So understand, they cannot, under any circumstances, see him as anything but absolutely perfect. So no matter what proof you bring of his moral defects, they will simply ignore those. I'm going to go here to section P75.2 to show you what Islam says about that. And so again, once again, I'm in the Reliance of the Traveler. So this is P75.2. This is enormities, right? And this discusses major sins. And a major sin in Islam that can lead to your punishment, and as you see there, your death, is not loving the Prophet more than all people. Muhammad must be loved more than you love your life, your family, your wealth, your children, your mother, everything. P75.2, the Prophet said, none of you believes until I am more beloved to him than his wife, child, self, and all people. When they say self, that's code for your life. You must be willing to give your life for Islam. Jihad. Kirmani says, love of the Prophet means the will to obey him and not disobey him, this being one of the obligations of Islam. You need to have unquestioning belief in Muhammad. This is called taqlid, unquestioning belief. It's a doctrine. I have spoken about that before. We can cover that another day. But understand, now, if you read further into Islam, you will discover that effectively they've taken the words of Jesus, I'm the way, the truth, and the life, and no one comes to the Father but through me. They've taken that and they've applied that to Muhammad. Because remember, the Shahada includes Muhammad and Allah does not accept your belief, your faith, your Islam, unless you also believe in Muhammad. So Allah will ignore you. Allah does not listen to you. Allah does not see you until you also accept Muhammad. So there is no way. The only way, there's the only way to Allah is through Muhammad. Understand his importance here. He is perfect. And if you love him, now think of the conflict this causes, because you have to regard Muhammad as perfect or you will be killed, right? You're a disbeliever and you'll be killed for apostasy. But at the same time, your own Sahih sources are saying that this man was immoral. So understand this conflict and this complete, incredible, just it's insanity. Do you understand? This complete, there's a word for it. It's just slipped my mind right now. But yeah, it's cognitive dissonance, right? So the Muslim who insults Muhammad is killed. There being no disagreement concerning that. And this is the view of the four Imams, all four schools of fiqh. Remember, the other four schools of fiqh in Sunni Islam are all illegal. Only these four schools are legally allowed. The others today are tolerated, but they are not accepted, right? And also other than them. So not only just the four Imams, but there's a multiplicity of schools and major scholars that believe the same. They must be killed. Now they speak of, in several hadith, the hadith of the blind man who killed a woman when he heard her insulting the Prophet. So now they come to the hadith and they speak of the hadith. Now this, the Sharia and the fiqh, right, give context to the Sunnah, they give context to the Quran, they give context to the hadith. Here they're giving context to it. They say this tells us we have to kill people if they insult Muhammad. A blind man killed his wife here, right? So let me see, believe will be killed, the two choices live under, yeah, very sad, Jane, but true. So there is no difference of opinion narrated from him concerning the killing, right? Now he's speaking of dhimmis and the Muslim state, but understand this goes well beyond that. There's multiple different instances here. Let's go on. All of them mention that the one who insults the messenger is to be killed, because as you know, Islam's the religion of peace. Now I don't know if it's yellow peace or warm peace. I assume it's warm yellow peace, but I'm not sure that it's the kind of peace that passes all understanding, if you understand me. So it's just saying kill people, right? So there are texts from them that the one who insults the messenger is to be killed. Shafi, head of the Shafi school of jurisprudence, it is reported from him that insulting the Prophet breaks the covenant and such a person is to be killed. I guess that was a big surprise to you. You didn't think I'd be saying killing again, right? Insulting the Prophet necessitates that they be killed. Are you detecting a pattern yet? When a person does this repeatedly, it is for the imam to kill them. Well, now we know that an imam can order your death. An imam can send a group of people to kill you. And to increase upon the fixed punishment that is prescribed by the Sharia, and this is upon non-Muslims, take that which comes concerning the Prophet and his companions of killing. So in other words, let's look at the Sunnah, the example of the Prophet and his companions of killing due to the likes of these reasons, which would be insulting him, right? And there's a perceived benefit in doing that. They call this the political killing. So Muhammad and his companions killed people who insulted him, and this was known as political killing. We know this as assassination, right? So, hi there. Even if it breaks their cast, yeah, Islam, yeah, whatever, yeah. It is for the Imam to give a discretionary punishment with this killing. So maybe that's why Imams go rogue. Yeah. Let's continue. We're only on page 18 now. This is the majority of them. These are the major scholars, right? They're speaking of the four schools and the major scholars within them. The majority of them gave the religious verdict that the dhimmi who insults the messenger is to be killed, even if they repent and become Muslim. The evidence for the obligation of killing the one who insults, right? So the evidence that they provide, and the evidence for the obligation of killing the one who insults Allah or his messenger or his religion. So just insulting Islam alone, right? Just insulting the deen, the religion, or his book, or the Quran. Now we know why Hatun Tash was attacked. And that such behavior breaks the covenant is in the Quran and the Sunnah and the consensus of the Sahaba and the Tabi'in. Also, it is based on reflection. So if you, in other words, they say that if the scholars, the best and brightest of Islam, think about it, this is the obvious conclusion. So as for the Quran, the first place is the saying of Allah, the Most High, fight against those who believe not in Allah, nor in the last day, nor forbid that which has been forbidden by Allah and his messenger, and those who acknowledge not the religion of truth among the people of the book, the Jews and the Christians, until they pay the jizya with willing submission and feel themselves subdued. Slight divergence here. One, I want to read a comment again. What a profound example. A blind man killed his own servant who was nursing him. It was his wife. Just because he insulted, the man, And Muhammad let it go. So because he explicitly allowed this to pass, this is taken as a ruling from in the Sharia. It's taken as a ruling because Muhammad speaks with the authority of Allah. So now when they say the religion of truth, when they use the term religion of truth, Islam is the deen ul haq, right? Haq is the ultimate truth, the ultimate reality. So Islam is considered the ultimate view on reality, the ultimate truth, right? It is without falsehood. It is perfect. Islam and Judaism, Christianity and Judaism are considered the deen al-batil. Now the al-batil means the worthless, the void. This is also the false because batil is one of the names of Satan. Now the deen al-batil means that our prayers, our supplication to God goes unheard. It's like dust. It just turns to dust and falls at our feet because Allah does not listen to those who follow the deen al-batil because Islam has abrogated all other religions, right? And we are to submit ourselves and pray behind Muhammad the way Jesus prays behind Muhammad or will pray behind Muhammad. That's also within the Sharia, but not the subject of this talk today. So the order is to fight them until they pay the jizya and feel themselves subdued. Now, why are we listening to No Name Muslim 69 in the comments when we've got one of the absolute top, most respected scholars in all of Islam in all time, telling us exactly, giving us the complete description of what this means. He's interpreting this and giving it its final interpretation, right? It is not permissible to leave the Jews and the Christians alone until they are in a subdued state and pay the jizya. So they are not to leave us alone. They're to harass us and keep putting pressure on us until we give in to them. It is known that their paying the jizya is while submitting to it in a humble state, and that their state of being subdued is through their duration in the Muslim state. So that's okay. Now they're talking about dhimmis again. Whoever insults Allah or his messenger, then they are not in a subdued state. Well, don't forget though, it is the duty of Muslims to impose Sharia in non-Muslim lands, to turn them into Islamic lands. So they are to make sure that we are in a subdued state, and if we are able to speak up, we are not subdued enough. That is because the one who is subdued is lowly, and this action is an action of one with power. So if we are able to speak, we still have power, and they must take the power away from us. The second place is in the saying of the Most High. If they violate their oaths, blah, blah, blah. If they attack your religion with disapproval and criticism, fight the leaders of disbelief. That's why men are going to punch Hatun in the face, because she's a leader of disbelief and she must be fought. Let's continue. Every description, now they're talking about every description, every attribute given within the Quran and the Sunnah independently affects rulings. They're speaking of rulings. Fight the leaders of disbelief. Will you not fight the people who have violated their oaths? Blah, blah, blah. If it was said Zayd is to be killed as he is an apostate and adulterer, what they mean that these things are cumulative, right? So apostasy is one crime and adultery is another crime. So these things are cumulative. It affects the ruling. So now you have multiple strikes against you. Now, those who invoke not any other God along with, and whoever does shall receive the punishment. Anyway, what they're saying here is those who invoke other gods along with Allah, in other words, Christians who have Jesus and the Holy Spirit, three gods, as they say, right? They shall receive the punishment. Whoever does this shall receive the punishment. The description necessitates everything from it and brings into effect the ruling, the punishment, whether one of these things is done independently of the other things or is combined with another thing. Likewise is the same. They disbelieve in Allah. So the crime is we disbelieve in Allah. Verily, those who disbelieve in the verses, the signs of Allah, this verse obligates torment due to whichever part is committed. So we are committing the crime of disbelief. Thanks, Hope Faith. Right, we're committing the crime of disbelief. So indeed, breaking the covenant permits their being fought, and criticizing the religion or any part of it is an emphasized part that obligates fighting. To criticize Islam obligates fighting. So we say that when there is offensive criticism of the religion, we fight whoever we don't have a covenant with. Do they have a covenant with us? No, they don't. Do you recall signing a demi contract? No, you didn't. And this is what is obligated. Fighting is obligated. It's not their fault, man. You asked for it. You did it. You did it. You should have just humbled yourself and been weak. Right. So what is your opinion of people like Tariq Ramadan? Would you say this kind of person is worse than a radical as he veils the truth of his religion by his authority on the subject, or is he deluded? I'd say potentially both. Now, Tariq Ramadan either doesn't know Islam or is not being honest about Islam. But yeah, I think he's not proving very effective. And yeah. Look, I don't know the guy, but that said, I don't think that he's being realistic. I don't think that, yes, he is probably veiling. He's probably giving cover to the bad ones. Yeah. Let's go on. Whoever criticizes the religion, he is a leader in disbelief. So David Wood, Hatun and others, we are leaders in disbelief. And their being fought against has been obligated. They are obliged to fight against us. And when they say fight, I've covered this before under the doctrine of commanding the right and forbidding the wrong. First, give advice. Second, give sweet words. Then, abuse and revile with harsh language, with violent language, right? With disgusting language. Then, use force. Then, get friends and gang up. The next step is to actually get weapons, right? I've covered this in a show before. If you want, I can go through this in the Sharia later. But fight the leaders of disbelief. So yeah, we are to be fought. Now let's go on. Fight against them so that Allah will punish them by your hands and disgrace them and give you victory over them and heal the breasts of a believing people. So they are hurt. They are hurt that we have read their Sahih, which says that Muhammad was a disgusting, immoral man, and which they cannot acknowledge because that will make them apostates within Islam and they will be guilty of this major crime, not just a crime, and be killed, but we're reading their own text and we are simply reading them out. And they have to fight against them, and Allah will punish us by their hands, and they will feel relief. Their pain will be healed. So Allah commanded the fighting of those who criticize the religion, and they will be punished and disgraced. The chests of the believers who have been hurt by their violating the covenant will be cured, and their anger in their hearts will leave. Whoever harms the Prophet has opposed and shown hostility to Allah and His Messenger. right? And they mention this verse from the Quran here, and among them are men who annoy the Prophet and say blah, blah, blah. This necessitates that whoever harms Allah and His Messenger is killed. Yeah, hopefully this message, it's a little repetitive. I'm going to stop in a few pages and I'll cover one or two other things from the Sharia. But this manual, this is a Sharia manual. It is the interpretation, it's the distillation, the collection of what is in the Quran, the Hadith, and the Sunnah. When I say the Sunnah, let's talk about the Sirah. It's taking all of the rulings that Allah has made, everything that Muhammad has said, everything explicit and implicit, distilling them down into a narrative that explains these rulings. These are the legal rulings in Islam for why they have to fight. And this is what it says. And this is made clear in the Prophet saying, who will kill Ka'b bin Ashraf, for indeed he has harmed Allah and his messenger. In other words, he spoke badly of Muhammad. He insulted Muhammad. So Muhammad said, who will kill him for harming? So speaking out is harming. In other words, the guy was a complete wuss and he couldn't, sticks and stones will break my bones. Yeah, they harmed him and his followers and he had to have these people murdered. The numerous evidences that the one who insults has disbelieved and is killed, even if he displays Islam. So there are numerous evidences that the one who insults Muhammad has disbelieved and is killed. So Sharia applies to you as well. Opposing and showing hostility means the person is an enemy. Remember, it says in Islam that the disbeliever is to you an open enemy. That's in the Quran, right? The disbeliever is an open enemy to you. So opposing and showing hostility means the person is an enemy, and that is disbelief and waging war. Who annoys the messenger of Allah is a disbeliever, an enemy of Allah and his messenger, who is waging war against them. Now, as you know, jihad is only fought defensively. And what are we doing? Well, we are waging war against them because we have not accepted Muhammad, and we insult them by not accepting him. So what do they have to do? Well, they have to defend themselves, right? This is how Islam works. They are cry bullies. Understand? This is how one of their major scholars, and this is consistent across the Sharia. You're welcome to, well, ask them to show you the fiqh, ask them to show you the law. Because if Islam's a religion of law, we need to ask ourselves, what is its law? Hey, Mojo, dude. Our Muhammad brothers and sisters are in a very dark place. Yeah, Mohammedan brother. Yeah, I feel a great deal of sympathy for them. I feel no sympathy for that fat dwarf Muhammad because the hadith say he was a fat dwarf, but whatever. Anyway, you will not find any people who believe in Allah and making friendship with those who oppose Allah and His Messenger. So they are not to be friendly with us. They are not to be kind to us. So understand, the evidence says here unambiguously they are to kill us if we insult Muhammad, if we insult Islam, if we insult Allah. Let me go on. I'll wind down soon on this book. The reason for this verse being revealed is that Abu Quhafa insulted the Prophet. So Abu Bakr intended to kill him. So it is established that the one who opposes is a disbeliever and his blood is allowed to be spilled. Can someone translate that for me into English? Because I think if I ask a Muslim what this means, they're going to say, well, what that means is that you have to sit them down, buy them a coffee, maybe a good steak, medium to well, and talk to them sweetly. And then what you've got to do is you've got to show them good by mowing their lawn. I'm definitely sure they're going to tell me this if I ask them what that means. But where I come from, saying that someone's blood is allowed to be spilled means that you can kill them. And in fact, says that you should go and kill them. Yeah. Yeah, Dashing Rogue, how's it, man? No, yeah, he was a midget warlord, exactly. Yeah, Muhammad, short and fat. Anyway, so this is a text that states that mocking Allah, His signs, and His messenger is clear disbelief. Whoever ascribes a defect to the messenger of Allah, whether being serious or joking, they have disbelieved. And what is the penalty for disbelief? Well, yeah, will surprise you if I tell you it's death. So rather, the believers are whoever says, we hear and obey. Yeah, so the believers are those who say that they hear and obey. I want to end this book here. There's more to this. The link is in the comments. Download it, read it for yourself, see what they actually say. But Islam is a religion of hate. It's a religion of peace, but very warm peace, fresh peace, right? And it is a religion of violence. It is a religion of warfare. It really is a religion of warfare. I think that this should very clearly show you. And the book goes on like this. It goes on and on and on to the end. Does anyone have any questions before I just skip over to the Reliance of the Traveler and show you guys a few things from that? Good. Corresponding Shia ruling. Whoever insults, reviles the just ruler should be killed. Is considered an infidel. Sharia al-Islam by Jafar ibn Hassan, Volume 1. Excellent, thank you. Yeah. So yeah, that is what that is, right? Now, right, so we have this. Let me have a look. I want to go to page 617. I'm going to show you the ruling of jihad. Now, I've blanked this out. I will delete this in a moment. Jihad means to war against non-Muslims and is etymologically derived from the word mujahada, signifying warfare to establish Islam. Right? There are no different meanings for jihad. This is the ruling on the meaning of jihad. Now, very often in these texts, you'll find that they will alter the text, remove sections, mistranslate sections, and so on. This section here is not in the original. This was added by the translator, and this is actually based on a fake hadith, on a what scholars actually say is not even a weak hadith, but a completely fabricated hadith. Now, they say this is the lesser jihad. As for the greater jihad, it is spiritual warfare against the lower self, your own self, which is why the Prophet said, as he was turning from jihad, we have returned from the lesser jihad to the greater jihad. Well, unfortunately, this is based on falsehood. Now, I've covered this in previous shows with Thaddeus, and I spoke at length about it. Right. So the scriptural basis, now here, the scriptural basis for jihad prior to scholarly consensus, and there is, the ijma exists, is such Quranic verses as fighting is prescribed for you, Quran 2:216. Slay them wherever you find them, Quran 4:89, and fight the idolaters utterly, Quran 9:36. Now, we are always told we are quoting Islam out of context. Well, this is just taking a fragment of a verse, slapping it on the page and saying, look, it means exactly what it says. It doesn't mean anything else. Right? This is from the top scholars of Islam, from its most authoritative Islamic text. Yeah. Well, most authoritative Sharia text. I've been commanded to fight the people until they testify that there is no God but Allah and that Muhammad is the messenger. If they say it, they have saved their blood from me. That is a threat. Right. I want to go to another section, page 748. And I want to talk about slander. Now, they all talk about slander, right? Slander is known as ghibba, right? So now notice there's a doctrine in Islam called commanding the right and forbidding the wrong, right? All of a human being's words count against him and not for him, except for commanding the right and forbidding the wrong. So when Muslims come into the comment section, they can say whatever they like, right? As long, because whenever they speak, the scales are weighed with the sins and their falsehood and their wrongness, right? There is no salvation in Islam. There is no salvation, right? So when they are commanding the right, when they are acting against us, we who are insulting Islam, we who are violating Islam, they are at that point commanding the right, forbidding the wrong. They are earning salvation. They are earning little points that go on the scale, that weigh the scale, the side of good, right? They are making that more than the side that counts against them. And so thus they can do whatever they want because their actions are determined by their intentions. And yeah, now slander. Sometimes they'll say, you slander Muhammad. You're slandering us. You're lying about us. No, the word slander means something completely different in the West under our morality and under our definitions than it does in Islam. Slander means to mention anything concerning a person that he would dislike. In Islam, slander does not mean to lie about someone. It means to say something about someone that is true, 100% true, but he wouldn't like you to say it. That is what they mean because they have a different legal definition of slander. And yeah, and that's, so yeah, I think I wanted to do a 30-minute show and I'll probably call it there, but do you have any questions? So let's see. Yes, Blast Prophet, Arabic is a Semitic language. Can the word jihad or its etymology be shared with other Semitic languages? I have no idea. I've never looked into it. Muslims always narrow this word down to, no, it does not mean personal struggle. Yes, look, okay, yes, it does. It means personal struggle in a colloquial sense. But in the Shari sense, the legal sense, in terms of the law of Allah and the law of Islam, the fiqh, jihad means only one thing. Let me just go back there, 617. In the legal sense, this is the only legal definition of jihad, to war against non-Muslims, and it is etymologically derived from the word mujahada, signifying warfare to establish the religion. This is the legal definition, right? This is the main definition. We're not interested in the colloquial definition. We want the legal, the Shari definition. Yeah, Jeff, it's crazy, right? Slander means to speak the truth that someone doesn't want told, right? It's crazy. That's slander. If you said that someone didn't do their homework, that's slander, even if it's perfectly true, right? Nanya Dibnus, whoever wants to engage in a roundtable about challenging, okay, yeah, please, yeah, that's great. Whoever wants to engage in a roundtable about challenging Islam, please send me an email, challengeofislam@gmail.com. Yeah, yes, Dashing Road, you're very correct there. Very smart. You always say smart things. Legal terms instead of these common terms, colloquial terms. Yes, because it's misdirection. There's more than one kind of way of seeing things in Islam. So yeah, we need to look at the legal. Yes, Erkan, yeah, terminology. Yep, definitely we have to look at that. So let me see. Hope Faith was asking, my question is, are Muslims allowed to lie on purpose to defend Islam? Why do they always run to insults when showing the truth? Okay, yes, they're, okay, you know what? Let me actually explain that to you. Let me show you from the Sharia. So I'm going to, yes, they're allowed to lie. They're most definitely allowed to lie. I'll cover that in a second, but let me get to commanding the right and forbidding the wrong. I've covered this before, and I'll do it for you. 713, so let me go to 735. Okay, this is about commanding the right and forbidding the wrong. Right, I'm going to... Okay, commanding the right and forbidding the wrong, to answer your question, is the most important doctrine in Islam. Quran verse 3:104 is technically the most important verse in Islam, at least according to the Sharia. Okay, according to the law of Allah, according to the law of Muhammad, Quran 3:104, and we'll get to that in a moment. So if we look at the contents, the obligation to command the right. So Muslims are under obligation. Commanding the right means to enforce the Sharia, right? And upon us too, non-Muslims. It's a communal obligation, meaning it's a legal obligation. There's code words here. It's legal obligation. And there are levels that they need to use. For instance, let's look at the levels. You must explain that something is wrong. Then you must verbally forbid the act. Then you must use harsh words. And we've all seen the harsh words, haven't we? Then they have to right the wrong by hand. Now, what would they mean, writing the wrong by hand? Let's ask Hatun if she understands writing the wrong by hand firsthand. Maybe she does. I think we've all seen it. Then, after you've hit them, then use intimidation. Now, usually intimidation comes first, but Islam can't get things right now, can it? Then it says use assault, and then it says use force of arms. This is a religion, people, the religion of hot, warm peace. I left some in the smallest room in the house a few minutes ago before I started the show. I think that's the kind of peace that they're talking about when they say it's a religion of peace, right? And I don't leave that stuff lying around. We flush where I live. So let me just read through a few comments and I'll get back to this text. Yes, Lexer, everything is backwards. It's back-asswards. End time, how's it going, man? There's also almost no hadith about the greater jihad. Exactly. Lots and lots of... Man, I could speak at length. I should bring up my notes. We could speak for hours about that. Wow, that would mean no DNA or fingerprint evidence can be deemed slander. Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah, so let me just continue here. So let me speak about... So commanding the right, right? So the analysis that follows is by Imam Ghazali. Now, he is the number one scholar. Imam Ghazali is considered the number one scholar in Islam. He is the top scholar there is. He is above the 28 Sheikh al-Islam. He has a higher title than them, right? This is taken from his book, the Ihya Ulum al-Din, right? Which is considered the second most read spiritual work, and quote-unquote spiritual work, after the Quran itself, all right? And I've read it. I've featured it on shows with Thaddeus in the past. You've seen me do it already. Now, it says that one should know that commanding the right and forbidding the wrong is the most important fundamental of Islam. the most important fundamental. It is the mission that Allah sent the prophets to fulfill. If it were folded up, if it were forgotten, right, or ignored, religion itself would vanish, dissolution would appear, and whole lands would come to ruin. Right? If commanding the right and forbidding the wrong were neglected, Islam, all religion, the world would turn to dust effectively. That's how important this is. Now, look, they don't tell you this. They don't want you to know this. You're not to know this stuff, right? Now it says, so that's why Quran 3:104 is the most important verse in the Quran. So let there be a group of you who call to good, commanding the right and forbidding the wrong, for those are the successful. That's why in the morning prayer it says, come to success, come to success. Prayer is better than sleep, come to success. That's what they mean. Islam means success. Now, Quran 3:104 says the group, they are the group that commands the right and forbids the wrong. Everyone else is just wrong. Let me grab a couple of comments here. So, a mosque in Israel is named after Ibn Taymiyyah. Yeah, he is Mr. Jihad Central. So all branches of Islam stipulate jihad in one. Yes, they all do. All of them do. I can go into that in a minute. So what you have is, if enough people command the right and forbid the wrong, meaning that whenever a wrong is seen, one of those who see it corrects it, the responsibility is lifted off the rest. Those who perform it being expressly mentioned as the successful, right? So someone has to do it. That small minority, that permanent small minority, right, have to always command the right and forbid the wrong. And let's look at that. Whenever, whoever of you sees something wrong, change it with his hand. If he cannot, then change it with his tongue. We've heard them speak with their tongues. If unable, with his heart. And that is the weakest degree of faith. And you don't want to be a weak Muslim, do you? Command the right and forbid the wrong, or Allah will put the worst of you in charge, and the best will supplicate to Allah and be left unanswered. If they don't do this, Allah will ignore them, right? And those who do not change something wrong when they see it on the verge of a sweeping punishment from Allah, because Allah threatens them. If they don't do this, if they don't punch Hatun in the face, Allah will punish them, right? Now, it says here, some scholars stipulate that you must have permission to do so from the caliph, and this is untrue. For the Quranic verses and hadiths all indicate that whoever sees something wrong and does nothing has sinned. Stipulating that there must be permission from the caliph is mere arbitrary opinion. Okay, I'll take their word for it. Right, I'll skip forward here. It is let's just skip forward, get to the meat here. Okay. So if one knows, it says here, if someone who is alone sees a corrupt person with a bottle of wine beside him and a sword in his hand, and he knows they will chop his neck, right? Don't do it, because there will be consequences for you. But it does say, let me just go forward here. The third degree of severity is to prohibit the act by admonition, by advice, and making the other fear Allah. Speak of the hadiths, bring him information, right? Then use harsh words. The fourth degree is to revile the person. If you look at the dictionary, revile means to abuse, to verbally abuse that person. So the fourth degree means reviling the person and bearing down on him with sharp, harsh words. Let me just see if I can zoom in so you guys can see this more clearly. One who does not resort to this degree, one does not resort unless you are unable to prevent the person by politeness. Usually, as we know, they skip over politeness and go straight to the, right? And then righting the wrong by hand. The fifth degree consists of changing the blameworthy thing with one's hand, such as by breaking musical instruments, pouring out wine, and we'll see, throwing rocks. Break the bottles by throwing rocks. If you have to throw the rock through a window to break well, hey, that's life, right? Let me see. Fleeing the battlefield is not permissible, even when death seems imminent. Yes, that is true. That's what Biden quoted, correct. He was quoting commanding the right and forbidding the wrong, which says that they need to use... See, jihad is a subset of commanding the right and forbidding the wrong. Do you think Islam will command the right with Yasir Qadhi? He is very much orthodox. As far as I can tell, Yasir Qadhi is 100% orthodox. He's following the rules. Yeah, Jeff, this is crazy stuff, right? Yeah, I'm also trying to wrap my head around this nonsense. Islam means success. I thought it means submission. Well, it'll bring you success. That's it. It says here, break the instruments, for example, just enough to stop them being used for disobedience and no more, right? Or to be careful not to break the bottles when pouring out wines. But if you cannot, except by throwing rocks at the bottles, then do so, and you're not obliged to cover damages. If you hit him with a rock, you break his furniture, hey, that's okay. Then intimidation. The 6th degree is the threatening and intimidation, such as saying, stop this or I will. Yeah, if you read Al-Ghazali's original, it says, stop this or I will hit you on your neck. I will punch you. I will attack you. Right? So he's a little bit more explicit if you read his book. Right? Go to archive.org, find a copy there. It's called the Ihya Ulum al-Din. I'll drop a note later. Then move to assault, the religion of assault. The 7th degree is to directly hit or kick the person, or similar measures that do not involve weapons. This is permissible for private individuals. Okay, fantastic. And then force of arms. So go get friends. Requires the armed assistance of others. Yeah, I'm going to go to the top here. Sorry, I'm going to go to the top. I just need to change this because I want to show you something out of the Reliance. So that's going to be on page. Right, I want to show you guys something. Okay, actually, I'll just, these documents, right? These documents are the certificates of authenticity of this book, because this was the first major, this is the most authoritative Sharia manual of Islamic law manual to be translated into English, right? So now we've got this guy who is the Imam of the Mosque of Darwish Pasha, Damascus, Syria. Must be important. Then we have the Mufti of the Jordanian Armed Forces, right? These are all signed. This is Dr. Taha Jabir al whatever, president of the International Institute of Islamic Thought. They're a member of CARE, who's a member of the Muslim Brotherhood, member of the Islamic Fiqh Academy at Jeddah. I've been to Jeddah in Saudi Arabia a couple of times. And he's president of the Fiqh Council of North America, and he gives this his stamp of approval. He gives this book. This is his certificate. This is his saying, yeah, this thing is legit. This thing is solid. Okay. So he's saying that this is a solid work of Sharia law. And now Al-Azhar, this is the most famous, the most established, the most important, the most authoritative Islamic seminary, university, and center of Islamic learning in the world. It's the oldest, been 1,000 years old. So as you know, Obama went here when he went to go and kowtow to the Muslims. And from Al-Azhar, let's have a look here. We certify that the translation corresponds to the Arabic original and conforms to the practice and faith of the Orthodox Sunni community. There is no objection to printing and circulating it. I don't know if I need to read that again, but it says that this is legit Sunni Islam. It doesn't say it's Shafi Islam. It doesn't say it's Hanbali. It says it is Sunni Islam. It is because Al-Azhar has deans that represent each of the 4 major schools. It also has deans that represent the 7 Sufi schools. In fact, the current dean is a Sufi. The previous dean was a Sufi. So anyway, we certify that the above-mentioned translation corresponds to the Arabic original and conforms to the practice and faith of the Orthodox Sunni community, not the radical, the Orthodox. Please understand, this is what this is. I'm going to grab a couple of comments. Jeff, this is another deceptive tactic. They always claim that retaliation can only be carried out in the Islamic State that has a caliph. Seems that this is not. No, it's not. Dude, why would you believe a single word? Why would you believe one word these people say? When have they been honest? When? Name a time. I don't know a time. If they told me it was Tuesday, I would have to check somewhere else to verify. I mean, when have they been honest? Like, there are no times. So yeah, if you don't, unless you read the Sharia, you're never going to learn it. Their job, they're not allowed to reveal the Sharia to you. They're not allowed to. It's illegal for them. Given this belief that Allah would punish them, they can justify any natural or economic disaster as Allah's punishment to go after the non-Muslims as scapegoats. Yes, they're as crazy as the Aztecs. Yeah, they're nuts. Yeah, the FBI visited David Wood, exactly. Yeah, Blast Prophet, I heard that where Allah claims that Allah, the angels, and all the believers will join Muhammad against one. Okay, I have no idea what that is. Give me a reference for that. Yeah, so have I missed any comments? So anyway, hopefully that answered the question. Where did I get that from? Was that from, not from Lexa, I think it was Hope Faith, yeah. Hopefully that answered your question, right? Hopefully that answered your question about this, right? So yeah, I can't remember offhand where all the references are. I wasn't planning to go through these, but understand that this is Orthodox Islam. This is not radical Islam. This is incredibly just basic, bog standard Orthodox Islam, right? And the doctrine where they need to, actually, let me just find the doctrine of taqlid. They also have to follow a doctrine called taqlid, which is unquestioning obedience to Islam, right? So let me just find the references to this. I am busy preparing some work on this. That's too many references. I should have started at the top. Let me just go back to the top. But yeah, are there any questions? Because oh, you retracted your message. Yeah, yeah. So are there any questions from you guys? Because then I can take some questions because I'll probably start winding down at this point. It's actually gone a little longer than I anticipated. Oh, okay. So, to be an Islamic judge, you have to possess knowledge of the rulings of sacred law. Now, of course, the guy in the comment section, the idiot Muslim in the comment section, is not an expert on sacred law. He knows nothing about sacred law. So, now why would his judge have to understand and read these books, learn these rulings, right? And he has to learn it from the primary text and so on. But so he must not merely follow a particular qualified scholar called taqlid. All Muslims are to follow, to choose, select an imam, a scholar that they follow, and this person tells them what to think, right? So taqlid is the unquestioning obedience, the following of the regulations of the Sharia. And so the scholar tells them exactly how to do it. So being qualified to perform legal reasoning requires knowledge of the rules and principles in the context, meaning the hadith, as well as knowledge of scholarly consensus. So the scholar must not only just follow blindly, he must actually understand, whereas the average lay Muslim, he just has to follow blindly. Now notice they make a distinction here between the hadith and they say not the sunnah, right? They make a distinction. The sunnah is, of course, the sirah, the gospels of Muhammad, right? And of course, notice here they speak of the nasik and the mansuk, which is abrogation. I've done a show on abrogation. You can check that on my channel as well as on Thaddeus' channel, which supersede previously revealed verses, and the mansuk, which are superseded by later verses. So abrogation is a real thing. Anyone who goes to study, an imam, has to know this. An imam who goes to university to study to become a sheikh or qadi, he's got to know about these things. Yeah. Look at the nations and state. They're as unstable as their faith, precisely. And, well, okay. What do we have? Shia version. So this is Orthodox Islam, not heterodox. Yeah, this is perfectly Orthodox. That's what that certification from Al-Azhar. Now you will notice Muslims will deny this. They will absolutely flat out deny it. They don't, you see, they cannot tap dance around this. What I've showed you here, they can't tap dance around this. This is clear. This is the final interpretation from their best scholars. They always said, go consult a scholar. Well, I consulted the scholars. The scholars agree with me, not with them. So now apparently consulting a scholar is a bad thing. I'll wrap up the last few minutes by taking this. This is from a book called Jihad al-Kufar, al-Qital al-Fasil, which is Jihad against the disbelievers, the decisive fight. Interesting. Fighting, not eating more veggies. This book is the religious and moral doctrine of jihad by Sheikh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah. What a surprise, this guy again. Right? So let me just skip forward a little bit with this book. So this is Ibn Taymiyyah's book on jihad, the penalties that the Sharia has introduced for those who disobey Allah and His Messenger. And that's you, right? The punishment of recalcitrant groups, such as those that can only be brought under the sway of the Imam by a decisive fight. That then is the jihad against the unbelievers, the kafir. Who's the kafir against? Someone remind me. Oh yeah, it's you. So these are the enemies of Allah. And he's saying, well, this man is one of the very top scholars. And he says they have to fight you until there's no more fitna and the religion is entirely for Allah. Allah sent his prophet and ordered him to summon the people to his religion. He did not permit him to kill or fight anyone for the sake of religion before the prophet emigrated to Medina. Thereafter, Allah gave him and the Muslims permission to fight with the words, permission is given. Allah imposed fighting to them with the following words. Fighting is prescribed for you, though it be hateful to you. It may happen that you will hate a thing that is better for you. It may happen that you love a thing that is worse for you. Allah knows and you know not. Allah emphasized this command and glorified jihad in many of the Medinan chapters. He criticized those who failed to participate in jihad and he called them hypocrites and sick. Right. I don't know, this just goes on and on and on. And I always ask Muslims, I've asked hundreds, show me the fiqh, show me the Sharia. They won't do it. They can't do it. They know it'll sink their boat, right? That's why we must not. This is doctrine that I'm showing you. This is not a verse. This is doctrine. This is the context of these verses. The doctrine shows that this verse means the following. And now you've got a 300-page book or whatever the case might be that explains what that verse says. Understand? So blast prophet, okay. Shia has even shorter escalation sequence by heart, by harsh language, then violence. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Exactly. Degrees of forbidding evil. That's fantastic, dude. I'm going to copy that. I want to put that in a text document. I'll look into that. Yeah, I did look at the Shia very much. Not a lot of their works are translated, although alislam.org is